HOA revenge? It's not very hard. This is what you do. For your next election, you order postcards through Vistaprint. I got 750 of these bad boys printed. They are 6 by 11 and the backside's printed. It costs $140. I put a little QR code on them, led them to a website that. In today's video, I'm going to teach you step-by-step how to create a successful HOA political campaign. I know it sounds a little crazy, but just like our politicians running for city council and even school board, they have a political campaign too. You'll see some signs out, you'll see postcards. So I'm going to teach you just the very basics and the resources I use and how my team was successful. And it was a blowout each time. We had a regular election where we got rid of 2 incumbents, and then we had a recall election where we blew out the incumbent there too. It's not very hard to do, and other people don't do it, so if you follow my guidance, you will likely be successful unless they watch this video too. They likely aren't, so let's get started. This is sort of politics 101. First off, we're going to define the problem. Second is creating a community of people to support the candidate or the cause, how to recruit good people, and developing a game plan. The first step is defining the problem and understanding the root cause. You can't be overly general, like dues are going up too much. Okay, why did dues go up too much? Was it because they didn't go up enough in the past and there was poor leadership? Or perhaps they didn't get bids on certain items, or they were paying too much for something? So really understand the root cause. You also need to have the evidence of that. Be specific about it because you need to look credible. And then creating solutions, that's super important. You need to get a consensus around some of these solutions and have multiple solutions sometimes. Whether you are a candidate running or whether there's an issue that you want to be dealt with, you can't go at this alone. You have to really create a community. And that means going to some of the social events you don't want to go to. Maybe it's bingo, who knows, attending board meetings, joining a committee or attending, volunteering, writing letters to the board, emailing the community, which we'll get into, asking questions, talking to neighbors. And just keep in mind that the dog walkers, once you connect with a few people, the dog walkers are key. Those are the people out there that really talk with each other. And even when you go to get your mail, make sure that you talk to people. As far as connecting with people, be sure to ask questions, ask them their opinions. Just maybe simple questions like, what do you think about the dues increase? Whatever the subject is, let them talk. That's something you'll learn in sales. Find commonality. Maybe there's a part of that you both agree with, and really just kind of hone in on that. Don't judge. If they have an opinion that's different than yours, that's okay. Just leave it at that and still be their friend. Avoid using your opinions. Keep it more factual and, provide the information like you care because you really do care and you want them to know this because you think it's important, and that's different than an opinion. It's more like you care about them versus you're telling them something. As for the facts, sometimes it's good to present it like, did you know that they are going to be raising the dues because XXX? So that's a good way of framing that. As far as recruiting good people, make sure that if anyone emails you that you respond back. Try to get their phone number or set up a time to talk. Make sure you connect with people at the meetings. Another thing we did was we didn't call it a town hall, but the candidates, when we did have them, we held what was called alley chats, and you'd be surprised at who showed up to the alley chats, people that we've never even seen at a meeting before. And it turned out they really cared about things, but also really respect people's privacy. Sometimes directly just ask them, is it okay if I let them know that you're going to be voting for us? And sometimes they don't want people to know just because maybe the alternative candidate or the opposition lives in their alley or right next door to them, and it makes the situation awkward for them. We live in a small space in these HOAs. This isn't like a national election. Always remember that these are your neighbors, and therefore you have to be really tactful and polite, and just always take the high road no matter what the opposition says. Never get down on their level. One of the really important things you have to do is first determine the timelines. When is the election going to be? When do people have to turn in their candidate statements? Wait till the last minute, by the way, to turn those in. Our candidates turned in their paperwork at the very last minute, and it really was great because the opposition was not prepared for our strong candidates, and we had all of our marketing ready, and they were just blindsided because they thought that they were going to be unopposed. The thing that was really neat also about what we did was we chose candidates that were professionally very, very strong, but they weren't known for going to the meeting so much. They were kind of nobodies in a way, but just no baggage, and they were fantastic. When you have the ballots going out, so what day is that? When does that mean that we have to get these printed by or mailed by? When does the website need to be ready? You need to be able to assign leads or tasks to certain items. Budget is important too. You can do a little fundraising amongst your group, your community that you create. You can look for donations. So once you've got that determined, you can figure out how much you can spend on marketing. And the good news is that this should be pretty cheap. Okay, let's talk about marketing. And there's different ways to market. One way is through emails. You can create a website, and I highly suggest a QR code as well. Posters in the windows, postcards, and extra credit items would be Facebook, YouTube, town halls, and any other social media, and even using WhatsApp to create kind of a community group chat. In the description link below, I reference my article about sending emails out to the community and how you can get the membership list. With emails, you want to first check your community guidelines to see if there are any restrictions. For example, you might not be able to create an email account that has your HOA name in it or a URL address. But I really suggest using the issues and not having the candidates send out the emails. So you want to go out at it indirectly because otherwise you get into this whole email game with the opposition, and then they send one, then you send one, and it can get really out of control where people just get sick of it and they don't look anymore. But try to be really short and factual in your emails, provide evidence, maybe link out to a report or an invoice for something. Don't send too many, and there's generally restrictions of sending 500 out at a time. And consider creating a special URL address. So let's hop on over to my article that I created, which will tell you how to get that membership list. In the description below, I have added a link to this webpage. The article gives some really good tips. Make sure that you check your grammar because everyone's going to tell you if you have some kind of grammar issue. Have someone else read it. You should use a call to action, maybe trying to get people to go to a board meeting and speak up or write a letter. Consider doing a survey. Create an email address, perhaps like your HOA name, xxxhoa@gmail.com. But again, look at the communications guidelines to make sure that there isn't a rule against that. And then also the timing is important. Don't send too many out. Don't send something out Sunday late at night. Try to send it Monday morning. If your board meeting is on a Thursday, send it out a few days beforehand in the morning. The subject title should be something like important HOA meeting this Wednesday, blah, blah, blah. But make it specific and urgent request or something about the dues. Whatever the issue is, make sure that you're clear about it and that you also say your name and ask people to reply back if they have any feedback. For the website, again, I suggest checking your HOA's community guidelines, make sure that there aren't any rules against certain names, but I highly suggest going over to GoDaddy and creating a URL. Let me show you how to do that. For creating a website and a domain name and email address, I suggest going to GoDaddy. Definitely don't use anything involving WordPress. So stick with GoDaddy, Wix, or Squarespace. But go to GoDaddy.com and then you go over to websites. I'm going to go to the website builder. And here are the different plans. I don't know for sure what this is. We don't need the book recurring appointments or online payments and deposits unless you maybe want to collect donations. Email marketing tools, I would say maybe consider this plan over that one, although it doesn't really give me any specific information on what that looks like. But at least with this plan, you get 25,000, that one only 100. And where they kind of hit you in a way is by having you pay up front for a year. You do have 7 days free with most of these different plans, but just choose a plan. This might change from when I did this video, but let's look at start for free. And I'm not going to go into everything here. I am going to put some links in the description on how to do this, but create a name, check your community guidelines. But on your website, also post factual information. It builds credibility. Go back and look at your analytics. You can actually see how many people went to your site. So I'm going to show you my website that I created. Okay, so here is my website. I'm not very happy with how it turned out. I used WordPress and I hated it with a passion. I wanted it to be set up like a blog. So let's just look at some of the things I posted though. So just forget the design here. Let's see, I posted some videos. So here is the YouTube video I posted, and I put some information here, and then this links out to my video. And I actually took some of our board's HOA meeting and I dropped it into Canva and made this video. So let's look at some other examples. So part of my website, the purpose was shaming them. My QR code that I created actually linked over to this article. Let me show you that. So my logo was Stop the Hide and Spend, and this is more or less what my postcard looked like. And I put a lot of the facts here, and I linked out to the reserve study, which was on our HOA's website. I linked out to the conflict of interest policy, but everything in here is factual. And I tried not to be emotional whatsoever about it. It is a little lengthy, and I got some criticism about that, but some people just are not good with numbers. And so just keep that in mind if you are to write something out like that. Part of the issue was of the recall that they refused mediation. I highlighted everything that they did. And one of the recommendations I have is, and it's one of the articles, insure yourself against libel and slander, and that's by taking out an umbrella policy with your homeowner's insurance. And in the case they sued you for something, you would use their attorneys to defend you, and they would pay any claims. This is my lawsuit, and here you can see that I actually put a link out to the lawsuit. So I have attached the complaint, and then you click here and it shows the actual complaint. So I do recommend, if there's some evidence you have, that this is a holding spot for all of this evidence for people to see and support why you needed the recall or needed the new candidates. In my case, I put the QR code and the website address on my postcard, and it was a really good way for me to track the analytics of my website. I could see how many people were going to my website, and also linking the YouTube. I could also look at the YouTube analytics as well, just to see what was being effective. The first word of advice I have with the postcards, they're great and they're very effective, but do not hand deliver them in the mailboxes. That is against the USPS rules, and someone's going to narc on you or really criticize you for doing that. So you either use stamps or you use everyday direct door mail, which is sort of like a bulk mail. If you are going to hand deliver them, make sure you put on a doorstep or somewhere where people will see them. Unfortunately, a lot of people just drive in and they don't go to the front doors at all, so they might not get your postcards. It's an investment to mail them, but it can pay off. I want to go over my postcard, and this was super effective. It was very controversial because the issue in my neighborhood was they kept on cutting down shrubs and they were just tearing through money, spending money on all of these landscape renovations. But I kind of played on the whole thing and I created this postcard. But one of the big things is that I did this little QR code right here. And then it was quite a large postcard. It was like 6 by 11. Just keeping the language really simple. Why vote yes on the recall? Stop hiding an executive session to spend. Stop the special favors. We had some self-dealing issues. Cannot afford cosmetic renovations. Historic 8.4% dues increase hurts home values. And then I had this link over to this whole article web page, but for some people, it might have been easier for them to use their phones and go over that way. I'm not really sure. In this portion of the video, I'll teach you how I did this. Just keep in mind that this doesn't look like your everyday mail that you get, the junk mail, and it really caught people's eyes and really upset the opposition. It was super controversial. The more personalized you can make the postcard to your situation, your neighborhood, the better. As of August 2024, it costs about 56 cents a postcard to mail. You can look into EDDM mail. Go to USPS.com and then you can do a search on EDDM, which stands for Everyday Direct Door Mail. You can save about 50%, but it's difficult sometimes to use that because the carrier routes will depend on how many people are in your neighborhood. And typically each carrier has about 500 addresses. So your HOA might go into 2 different carrier routes or just a portion of one, but that's a way of saving money if you can. Unless you're in a really big HOA, it probably won't work. But 500 homes, and sometimes it includes business addresses. Here it's showing me that this is 509 mail pieces and the cost would be $113. Here I am at vistaprint.com. You sign up as a first-time user. They usually give you a code for 15% off. So I'm going to go over here to postcards. And I do believe it's about the same rate. You want to check all of this before you have anything printed. But the 6 by 11 does qualify for EDDM mail. And you can upload your own design here. But just to get an idea of the pricing, we can look at some of the different templates. You can go to designs. Let's look up election. Let's see what comes up. So for example, let's just use this one. And I just went with all the standard features, front and back. You want to make sure that you have the back too. Let's say edit my design. That looks great. Ashley. And let's go to the back. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to choose something. So you can use their templates and just fill them out. And I'm not going to go into how to do that. So let's see, save, postcard. And make sure you check your grammar. I can't say that enough because you will really hear it from people if it's incorrect. So I'm going to review my design. Unfortunately, you kind of have to go through this whole rigmarole to figure out what the pricing really is. So if I go down here to price, I'm not going to choose any of these additional items, but look at the breakpoint pricing. Obviously, for a small HOA, it's kind of expensive, but when you get up here, it gets pretty cheap, especially when you add the discounts. I think we paid, even with express shipping, of about $40 to get it there in a few days. We spent $185 on 750 postcards. Although it says it's $185.99, there's all these sales all the time. You never really know, especially if you end up being on their email list, you get notified of the sales. But it does take 2 weeks approximately in order to receive the cards with the standard shipping. So you need to build in about 2 weeks into your timeline, or at least pretend to make a postcard and walk that back from your election. But let's look at my postcard I made. I'm very proud of my postcard. A lot of tutorials online about making things on Canva, but let's just go to create new design. And if you look over at Vistaprint, I think they had the height at, let's see, this was like 11.12 and the height was 6.12 inches. Create new design. And let's just look at some ideas. So let's say the issue in your neighborhood is spending. So here are some different templates. Stop spending. And I just look for inspiration. And I look for landscaping. This postcard was actually my inspiration right here. And you can see here that there's a guy out here working. And so I just sort of thought about it and I adapted what I saw here in these different ideas and created a postcard. So you can do the same thing. Just think of what you want to communicate, make it kind of fun, catch people's eyes. You can go the traditional route too. Let's look up election. These are pretty hokey, but still gives you some ideas of how to structure it. To create a QR code in Canva, you go over to the apps down here, and I already have this app. QR code, sometimes you need a premium membership to do this, but you click on here, you enter the URL, and then it's going to generate a QR code for you. So let's just say, for example, here's the generate code, and you can go over here and copy this or download it. To download it, you go down here to share, you download, and then it's a little cumbersome over in Canva, but then you upload it. Let's see here. So you go to your uploads and you can upload it there, and so it's always there, and you can enter it into your designs when you create a poster or postcard, whatever you're doing. The posters, I usually use Vistaprint. Again, try to get the bulk quantities because your pricing is going to be a lot cheaper. I use Canva once again, and we also had someone that was tasked with doing the posters, and we all helped recruit people to hang posters in their windows. It was really important, especially the very visible locations. And she actually logged all of the contact information of who hung up a poster. So the idea was that we could contact them again in the future for other elections. And she also even counted the addresses of the posters for our opposition group. And from the number of posters out there, we pretty much gauged that we were way ahead in our own unofficial polling. Again, you want to check your community's rules to see what the poster rules are, or elections to see if there are any prohibitions against hanging things in your windows. You generally need to remove them after the election is over, so really take care to make sure that you put those down after the election, and then also really try to get those strategic locations where you've got a lot of visibility. Those are really important, but the posters really help build credibility. It helps bring the issue to light especially for the people that aren't involved in the HOA politics and they don't volunteer, they don't go to any of the meetings. But getting the posters out ahead of the ballots really is helpful. So I highly recommend getting the posters done. As for YouTube videos, this is something I wouldn't put a lot of energy into, but in my neighborhood, it did make a difference. Not a whole lot, but I did put links inside of my emails out to the community, and it was also linked in throughout my website. But I actually took part of a clip from one of our meetings, which was on YouTube, one of our HOA meetings of our HOA attorney. But, you know, you have to be really careful with recordings because, you know, you don't want to get in any kind of trouble. Some states have different rules than others. And in some states, not California, they let you record without permission. Other places, other states, you can't do that. But if you do a YouTube video, keep it fun, keep it short. I use Canva, and you can use your phones and iMovie as well. And I put some background music to it and made it kind of fun. But it did, hearing the person I was recalling as well as the attorney giving the advice that backed up my claims, it was really helpful, and you couldn't refute it because those were their words. On YouTube, you can look at the analytics. You can see how many views you were getting. So that can be kind of helpful to see if it's something that works in your neighborhood or not. But I live in an older neighborhood, and just the older people don't go to YouTube that much. As far as extra credit, I highly suggest scheduling town halls. We have a large HOA of 590 people with 7 zones. So we had 7 separate town halls where people met at a certain location. You could also use Zoom, and that was really great. We used door hangers to market that and put the location, the date, and the time. The other group opposition tried to copycat us, which is something you're going to find, but try to get those out there the day the ballots go out. Letters to landlords or the people that own a home, or maybe they don't live there full time, make sure that you get some kind of letter or postcard out to them, some kind of outreach, because those can be really important. In our neighborhood, about 25% of the homes are not owner occupied. A Facebook page can work. I haven't found Nextdoor to be very effective. There's too many ads, and everything is all curated and filtered, and then you get into these little Facebook wars, Nextdoor wars. A Facebook page can work for some people, but a lot of people don't like social media. And a WhatsApp group, if you have like a little private group or a group chat, that can be another effective group. Or GroupMe, for those of you working on the campaign together, it can be a little annoying because you get a bunch of chimes for text messages, but sort of beats getting a bunch of emails going back and forth. Thank you for your time. Please let me know if you have any questions. It might take me a while to respond, but you can see my email address there, which is info@hoawatchers.com. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I know I'm just getting started with it, but it's really difficult to find information on HOA problems. I hope that I can at least help you get some new board members in place. Keep in mind that it might take several cycles to get the bad board out, but hang tight and be persistent. Best of luck to you.